Investment advisory services offered by Pryor McCormick Investments, an Alabama-registered investment advisor. Securities offered through Stern AG Financial Services Incorporated. Member FINRA SIPC. Pryor McCormick Investments and Stern AG Financial Services Incorporated are not affiliated companies.
It's 5:36. Superstation 101 WYDE. Leland Live. My buddy Steve Pryor in here tonight to help us make sense out of this stuff, man. We do this segment just to give you some free advice. The world's crazy. The markets are crazy. A lot of folks, we got a lot of listeners that are 50 plus, and man, they're knocking on the door of retirement. And boy, you pay attention to it every day when you're in that zone. So Stephen comes in here on Wednesdays. It's sort of appointment radio for a lot of folks. And just to remind you, we will throw the phone lines open. So they're open if you want to get in line, 941-1011. If you got a personal question or something you want to understand. Stephen, I just like the way you break it down and help people just understand it in plain English. And
we appreciate the way you do it. I mean, it's not every radio station that gives this kind of opportunity. It's not only enjoyable, but it's an honor, really, because we honestly are committed to the concept that, you know, the average person works too hard to retire broke. And I know we kind of throw that line around, but it is a sad thing to see. People who go their whole lives, pay a lot in taxes, pay church tithes, pay for kids' education and braces, and then some of them even support their own parents. And then when it gets time for them to slack up a little bit, they don't have the money to do it.
And then you run out of life before you run out of money, run out of money before you run out of life, or whatever.
Yeah.
All right. So today, let's just start with today. Despite all the other headlines today, we'll put that aside for a few minutes. The market's at a decent, triple-digit drop, about 113 points on the Dow.
Mm-hmm.
That just makes folks nervous.
Well, there are a lot of people nervous right now. You know, they don't. There's an old saying, they don't ring a bell to tell you when the market's about to go up or down. But let's just look at a couple of facts here. The market has gone basically straight up since March of 2009. 2009, the stock market hit a bottom on the 9th of March, and since then it's gone up 175%. Now, that's a lot. That's a big gain. And that's a wonderful thing. A lot of people still haven't recovered from how the market dropped in 2008. But an awful lot of people getting ready for retirement need to pay attention to a couple of things. One thing is, for instance, the average bull market, the length of the time that an average market goes up is 57 months. And the current bull market we're in from March of 2009 will hit 57 months in October.
And October is a famous month for steep drops. We're getting at the end of the year. People start pulling the plug.
Typically an awful month. It's not the worst month of the year, but typically is not a good month. I'm not old enough to remember 1929, but I do remember 1989. Where the stock market dropped 22.5% in one day. I was working at E.F. Hutton at the time, and we all jumped out the window, but we were on the first floor, so we just kind of walked through the bushes and walked back around and came back in.
The parking lot,
So we jumped out 3 or 4 times. But the stock market that year ended up 6.5% calendar year.
Now, I'm not trying to get you to predict perfect storm, but just based on trends, that seems kind of ominous. So what it makes me think, Steve, is a lot of folks, and I'm not quite in that zone yet, but you're in your 50s, you're seeing 60, and you feel a little inflexible and trapped because you're in a retirement plan that's invested in mainly stocks, doesn't have a lot of diversity, or not. You don't have much capability. Are you really trapped? I mean, how do you unwind some of these things or move them into different type funds so you can have more control over that and not get stuck?
Yeah, a lot of people get nervous. You know, when you have, say, for instance, a 401k plan, company-sponsored retirement plan, you're used to looking there and you see maybe anywhere from 6 or 8 different mutual funds in there, maybe 20 different mutual funds. And those are the choices. Your employer is responsible for making sure there are no dogs in there. But still, you have a limited choice. What do you do? And most people in 401ks, you know, they really don't check them that often. They don't go in and move it around. Some people do, some people don't. But the problem is they don't really have any help, and they don't have a lot of choices to go into. One of the things that you can do, there are a couple of ways where you can take money out of your retirement plan without paying excessive taxes. Now, let me just back up a little bit. The basics are, and most people know this, if you take money out of your company retirement plan or your IRA for that matter before age 59 and a half, then you pay ordinary income tax at your current tax rate plus a 10% penalty tax. That's an excise tax that's just kind of an extra slap from the government saying, we told you to keep this for retirement.
So if you just take it out raw, you're going to pay all the tax, and you're going to pay that penalty.
Now, so a lot of people may think they're trapped in their 401k. I can't do anything until I retire. And either they just kind of close their eyes and take the ride, or they move everything into cash for fear of the markets going down. I mean, a lot of people lost a lot of money in 2008 and were not able to retire on time. But there is something called in-service distribution, and that's a provision that's allowed by the law that says you can take out some of your retirement money before 59 and a half, and before you retire, you can actually have your money leave your company before you do. Roll it into an IRA, no tax whatsoever, penalty or otherwise, no tax. You roll it in, and then you can invest it however you want. You can get professional help with it. You can buy any legal investment inside an IRA. You have a better control over what's going on with your money.
So the IRA is more diverse in that it can go into what? Numerous bonds or
individual retirement account. That's what the IRA stands for, which is individuals. It doesn't have your company's name on it, just your name. Nobody else is involved, and you can invest the money in the whole world's open. You can invest it stocks, bonds, mutual funds, annuities, cash, whatever.
What does that do for you if you're heading into a storm?
That's a good question. What it does for you is give the ability to react, and when things start going bad, you have other choices. And it helps real professionals maybe anticipate some things and get you in a position where you're not going to take the big hit. I mean, obviously, if your company has 12 mutual funds and those are your choices, what are the chances those 12 mutual funds are the best 12 investments on planet Earth?
And didn't you teach us that those all are those mutual funds usually have a restriction or a designation as to where they're the bulk of them have to be in the type product that
that sort of nails right on the head, because what happens is, say you have decided you want to be invested in the United States stock market. Now that may or may not be the right choice, but once you put your money, say, into a blue chip stock fund, that's large companies and U.S. Stocks, you put it in there, and the money managers of that fund will decide which funds, and they'll buy and sell. But guess what? The federal government has decided, the SEC has decided, that if your mutual fund says, hey, we're a blue chip stock fund, then they have to always maintain at least 90% of the money in blue chip stocks. Now, even if they see the bad news coming, even if they see the market about to crash, they cannot do anything other than take 10% of it into cash and leave 90% in blue chip stocks.
So they got to stay in the Dow.
They have to stay there. They have to stay right there. And that's true of most mutual funds.
So if I'm 50, I don't know, I'm 56. I'm not, but I can see it. I feel handcuffed. I would rather not let somebody else trap me in the position if there's another slide or a bear market. Or
right. Well, the problem is the big decisions, whether you should be invested at all, whether you should be in blue chips, and whether you should run and hide, those all are big decisions that are left to you, the dumbest guy in the room. You know, if you're not an investment guy, if you're not a financial advisor, then what do you know? I mean, at best, it's a hobby for you. But do you really want your life savings to depend on you deciding when to be invested? Well, if you roll it out of that into an IRA, then you can hire professionals to make those determinations for you. Be more tactical, get you out of the way if they see something bad coming.
Somebody told me one time the best way to be a financial genius is to know that you don't know anything. I mean, just to know what you don't know and seek that kind of pretend you just don't know, and don't go with emotional decisions. Well, okay, let's take the scenario a little further. What if, you're in that employer fund, but you want to break off a piece of it so you can turn it over to somebody and have better control of it, or at least this diversity is what you're talking about. Do you stay in it so that your employer keeps making contributions to the 401k, then you continue to move it?
That's it,
or do you let
exactly.
it pile up? How do you stay with
your
employer?
Well, there are a variety of ways to do it. You have to remember that the 401k plans always follow the law. Yeah. They follow the law. They can't do something that's illegal. The law allows certain things. If the law doesn't allow certain things, then they can't do it. Don't ask. But they don't have to allow all the things the law allows. So as we talk about this, know the bottom line answer to most of your questions is going to be ask your own HR department. Ask them if they have in-service distributions available. Now, what that means in layman's terms is that once you hit 59 and a half, you can pull all the money out of your 401k that your company allows. Some of them restrict how much you can take out, every bit of it, and roll it tax-free into an IRA, and then you can control your money as if you were already retired. Does not affect your 401k. They keep putting money in. You can keep putting money in. There's no change there. Now, one little piece of that is if you have money in there that you didn't put in there, that is, say, a company profit-sharing plan, their match, right. Those two things, you can actually possibly take that money out before 59 and a half. Because the law allows that. It just depends on what your company, what HR says. They may say, and many of them do, age 55 and above, you can take out the company money and roll it into an IRA without any cost.
So 59 and a half is the trigger point.
Yeah, don't ask me why. The federal government decided 59 and a half should be the point at which you can take money out without a penalty tax. And they've also said 70 and a half is the point at which you have to start taking money out. Mm-hmm. I have no idea why I would love for somebody to call in and tell us why they did the 70 and a half.
Well, I'm going to go hyper-cynical on you, okay? I'm Mr. Government Critic over here, kind of hyper-cynical. We all know that they're looking for ways to bail out some of their bad, irresponsible, the money printing and the Social Security program, and all those things need adjustments. The left in this country has their eye on all these retirement funds that are piled up, and the one way for them to do it is taxation, change the rules, regulate. We all see they've done it over the years to tweak us, to get more out of us, to pay for their bad programs. Is there a worry on your part that 59 and a half may change? They ratchet up age limits on you midstream, or
I
make
assume
it even
will.
later before you can really pull your money out? You got to work till you're 70 now in your own private fund?
Yeah, people are really concerned by the idea that Social Security will not be around. And I always tell them Social Security will be there. There is no question. The politicians will not let it die. Now, you may have to be 86 before you can start taking money out, and they may tax 90% of it, but it'll be there. But anybody that relies on the Social Security, I think, is making a mistake, unless you're pretty close to retirement right now.
But even on the private side, do you sense that can they even legally? I don't even know if you can answer this question. Change the rules on when you can start withdrawing your money without penalty.
Absolutely.
Can they jack up?
Absolutely. They can change every bit of that.
That scares me to death.
Well,
Steve.
Me too. But and that's sort of what's behind something we've been calling the 11-12 manifesto. The idea, 11-12, November of last year. Mm-hmm. We've sort of I think reached that tipping point where we can no longer optimistically, I don't say give up on it, but optimistically expect the government to do the right thing. So starting last November, you need to make sure you're taking care of yourself. And that manifests itself in different ways. Like
Explain that. I don't think I understand that.
Well, the idea, my entire life I've been an optimist. And people have heard me say in my business 34 years now, nobody ever went broke being optimistic about America, which means invest, it'll be okay.
We were the safe haven of the world.
We were the safe haven of the world. The dollar was the gold standard, if you will, for currency, and you always made money. You always gained over time. The American dream was there. I'm afraid we have reached the point, and when you look at the Obama administration, after obvious unfettered incompetence and corruption, getting reelected, we have reached a point where we're going to still fight the fight, but we cannot be long-term optimistic about the way the government operates. Now, I will say this, and I've sort of alluded to it a few weeks ago, Leland. That's one of the reasons I appreciate your show. I listen to you talk. I listen to your callers. I still sense there are enough people out there who still believe who can make the difference. However, I don't think it's rational. I don't think it's responsible to assume that we're going to make these long-term course corrections in the country and things are going to be just fine again. I think you have to pull your horns in a little bit. I think you have to look at your own family, look at your own situation, save more, invest more. I've got a whole list if anybody wants them, and they include things like be a responsible gun owner. You know, if you look at municipalities going down like crazy, when you look at even cities like Chicago, a 20% reduction in police force over the last few years.
Detroit's a prime example. They have to defend themselves there.
It's a simple thing. The response times of policemen and firemen are just going to get longer. They just are. And in addition to being a responsible gun owner, you ought to know CPR and first aid, and you ought to have implements and a plan to handle fire. Now, that may sound overreactive, but I'm telling you, you need to look to take care of you and yours, and not, all levels of government will be secondary.
When they get this broke from the municipal level all the way up to what they're doing in the federal government, you have things happen like Hoover canceling buses.
Mm-hmm.
They've either got to trim back on their services to get their books balanced, or they got to raise taxes or come up with other ways to get their hands on the productive people's money. And in large part, the biggest pot of money sitting out there is retirement savings.
Absolutely. Just one more parenthetic statement. Sadly, but clearly, it's not just about the money. As I understand it, most schools, all schools, don't even teach cursive writing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we know from decades of studying it, cursive writing teaches more than just the ability to write pretty. It helps the thinking process. It helps the visual recognition. I'm no psychologist, but as I understand it, there's a lot of gains. If I had children of that age, I would absolutely teach. I'd take it upon myself to teach them to read and write cursively, because we're giving up something that's valuable to them. And I don't know why. I really don't. I don't understand.
It forces you. Let's be totally paranoid. It forces you into digital communication for everything, and now we see what they're doing with all that. Boy, we're a couple of little paranoid jokers.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not really out to get you.
It's a heightened state of awareness.
Exactly. And so let's practical. All right, what are we going to do about it?
What do you do?
The money thing. You get as much money possible under your direct control as you can. You do not go into a bunker mentality. You don't buy gold bricks, although most people only have enough money to buy gold flakes, much less bricks.
No, that's kind of me.
You invest wisely. You take opportunities. You take risk. You cannot save your way to it, because saving is not investing. You don't get any actual growth.
When you say save, you mean stick it under the mattress?
Yeah, saving is like counting marbles. I buy more marbles, and I've just got the same number of marbles in my pocket. Growth is like planting a seed. You actually grow not only your money, you grow companies, you grow opportunity, you grow this country. We sort of talked about that a little bit last week, the difference between gambling and investing. Well, there's a difference between investing and saving. So as far as I'm concerned, you got to really pay more attention, be more self-reliant. Self-reliance, along with a couple of other factors, is what made this country. It's what will make you. I mean, you can make it. I mean, look at the people. There are many rich people in Europe, and you can't find a more messed up system in the Western world than Europe.
So I hear two messages. I hear there's still optimism, that there's still places to grow and invest and thrive on your own, but you've got to dodge and bob and weave around the coming stupidity that's coming from government down the road.
Yeah, I guess bottom line is one big thing. It all comes down to one thing. For many, many decades, everybody said just buy good quality investments and hold. That's Dave Ramsey is one of my favorite humans on planet Earth. I think he's done more good than many people. But he still says, and I'm aware, just put your money in a good quality growth mutual fund and watch it grow over time. It'll go up and down, but you'll progress. That worked until about 10, 12 years ago. The last 12 years, we've seen the stock market lose half of its value 2 separate times. And many people, even though the stock market's up 175% since the last drop, still aren't back to where they were, not to mention where they would have been if they hadn't lost all that money.
If it would have kept going, right?
The most practical thing, application for all this is for your money, is to not just be a sitting duck. Don't just be a stationary target. You've got to have, whether you can do it or not. I honestly have not seen very many laymen that can actually do it adequately. You need professional managers to help you move around, to help you have more in stock at sometimes than others, and can really handle
when to spread it and when to move it.
Yeah, what do you do? Let me just ask the listeners. You got your 401k, you got your mutual funds, whatever. What do you do the next time the stock market drops 10%? Like if it drops tomorrow like it did today, drops the next day. What if we have that 300-point down day? What are you going to do?
Your first instinct is I'm pulling out. But then the next question is, well, where am I going to go with all this
Where are
stuff?
you going, and when are you going to get back? every decision has got an end game to it.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to buy into the market. I'm going to buy this stock. When you buy into anything, you need to have an idea of when you're going to sell it. And that's what's missing. And it's the only thing I argue with Dave Ramsey about is that, this just put it in there and let it go because it'll come back and you can ride through these waves. Well, I'm telling you, we got a whole generation that's been like they've been in an inner tube at the beach riding up and down the waves, and they ain't going nowhere.
It's floating.
Yeah, and so that has a personal toll to that, not just money. The personal toll is frustration, disenchantment. They feel less inclined to save or invest, and they get this give-up mentality. Well, I'll never be able to do that.
It's a paralysis
Yeah,
based on emotion.
exactly, and that's why people end up saying, well, I'll always have a car payment, so let me just get this lease because I can drive a fancier car than I would have buying it myself.
Mm-hmm.
That would also be in place of people to say, well, I'll never be able to own a home, so it doesn't matter. I mean, again, I hate to give a shameless plug for one of your advertisers, but Hometown Lending,
Yeah.
if you're not dealing with people like that and making real progress, I mean, they may not appreciate me saying this, but I really dig when they come on and tell those stories. They say, we cut this person's mortgage time by 5 years. I mean, that's tremendous. That's the kind of gain I'm talking about making on the investment
That's playing
side.
chess, not checkers. I mean,
There you
you're
go.
being a strategic move. That's part of your life. Get that beat back.
Yep.
Get less interest, get less debt, move to the next thing and get it under control.
Yeah, well, the problem is, like I say, you get beat down. You get beat up and you get beat down. And you don't think you can ever own your home outright. You don't think you can ever retire on your own. I mean, a lot of people have an opinion of when they want to retire, but the sad truth is many people will not have that choice. Either physically they'll get sick or financially they don't have enough money.
You just went exactly where I wanted to go in my mind. When we started the segment, we were talking about people in their 50s.
Mm-hmm.
Where you're in that zone where you've piled up this money, you're in these programs. You have to kind of ride it out and be smart because you can't just bail at this point. You're close to that horizon, so you got to be as strategic and smart as you've ever been.
Yeah, people ask me, do I have enough money to retire? Most of the time the answer is no, and all the time is we have no idea. I don't know what a ham sandwich is going to cost next year, much less the house you're living in or a gallon of gas. We don't know what number is going to be, but so you need to stay active on it. Unless you've got $10 million and you're 90 years old and you can just kind of coast on in, you need to be conscious of the changing markets and changing world.
Steve, tell them how to reach you. And I know you've got the 401k sanity programs on your website and all that stuff. What's the phone number?
1-800-800-8761. 1-800-800-8761 or PryerMcCormick.com.
Or hit our website, and everything's there on the ad line. You can click right through and get in touch with Steve and ask him more specific questions. We do have one for you. We may take it offline because we got to go to the bottom of the hour. We'll make sure we get this. It is 6 o'clock. Steve Pryor McCormick. We appreciate him spending time with us on Wednesdays to not make us scared, but make us smart, help us learn and try to understand this stuff in a crazy, crazy world. Back here in just a minute, Superstation 101.